Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first in our Meet Your Category Manager webinars. Now, I'm talking rather slowly this afternoon whilst everyone floods in through the lobby. We have had an overwhelming response to this session, which is really wonderful to see. So many people interested in hearing what Michael and I have to say. And Michael is here looking after the lobby for me. And we are going to kick off with our content. So, my name is Emma Peters. I am the Head of Engagement for Local Buy. The slide that I am showing you now shows my wonderful Senior Engagement Managers. So we have Liz McFarlane, who looks after the larger councils down in SEQ. Jeremy Walker looks after the councils just outside of SEQ and all the way across to the Northern Territory border and up as far as Livingston Shire Council. We have Audrey Dobell. Audrey's based in Cairns, and Audrey looks after predominantly the Indigenous councils. She also looks after Cassowary Coast and Douglas as well. And as I said before, my name is Emma Peters. I am the Head of Engagement for Local Buy. I look after 21 councils in the Northern Queensland region, North Queensland, and also assist with the 17 councils in the Northern Territory. Now, a little bit of housekeeping for you this afternoon. Because we had so many people registered to attend, unfortunately, we couldn't have microphones and cameras on because it would have probably just descended into chaos. So they are off. However, if you have any questions at all, please do pop them in the Q&A. You will find a Q&A button on the top of your Teams toolbar there. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please pop them in there, and I will talk to them, either answering them direct to you while Michael's going through his slides, or if there are questions I think that we should be sharing with the group, then I will read them out loud and we will answer them live at the end of the session. The session is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the recording and the slide deck also. That needs to be prepared by our marketing team, so that will probably be later this week or early next week that those resources will be sent out to you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-host this afternoon, Mr. Michael Franzmann. Michael is the category manager for the recruitment pre-qualified supplier arrangements, and we're going to hear from Michael in just a moment. Now, what we always like to do is to give our webinars some context and remind you who Local Buy is and why we are here, and more importantly, why you have decided to become a Local Buy pre-qualified supplier. So you may know, and I hope that you do, that Local Buy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Local Government Association of Queensland. Next year, in 2026, we will be turning 25 years old. So we've been around a little while assisting councils streamlining procurement. We are a profit for purpose organisation. Any money or profit that we make over and above our operating costs are handed to the LGAQ, our owner, and they use those funds to provide awesome member services to the 77 member councils in Queensland. Additionally, we also work really closely with Legant, that's the Local Government Association of the Northern Territory up in the NT, and also Legat in Tasmania to provide procurement solutions within those particular states as well. Now, why do councils need help with procurement? Well, the reason that they need assistance is, as a council officer, if I'm going out to buy something on behalf of my council, I can't just go and do it. There are rules and regulations that are set down in a couple of pieces of legislation. The Local Government Regulation 2012. And I've pulled out some key parts of the legislation to talk about today. I'm not going to go through it or give you a big lecture in local government legislation, but these are some important thresholds. So councils are going out to procure goods and services between 15,000 and 200,000. They must obtain 3 written quotes. If they're entering into what's considered a large size contract, that's over $200,000, they have to perform a full and open market tender. We will talk about tenders in a bit more detail in a moment. Now, those thresholds are accumulative through the life of a contract or a financial year with a supplier for similar goods or services. Now, in the Northern Territory, those thresholds are slightly different. So between $10,000 and $100,000, it's that 3 written quotes. Between 100 and 150, a public request for quotation, and their tender threshold in the Northern Territory kicks in at $150,000 excluding GST. Councils also need to consider the sound contracting principles, which are in the other piece of legislation, the Local Government Act. So I'm not going to read these out to you, but the 5 principles are there on the screen on this particular slide, one of which of those is value for money. So how does local buy come into all of this, you might think? Well, if a council goes out to procure goods and services through a local buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement, they do not have to perform tenders. You can throw the tenders out the window, even if the size of that procurement activity is going to be over $200,000. Because local buy has an exception within the local government regulation, which means it negates the need to perform tenders. Some councils may still go through a request for quote process, which is much quicker and simpler to make sure that they're achieving value for money, but they don't have to do a full and open tender. Now, full and open tenders, as we know, are really time consuming, not just for the council to put together, but also for the suppliers to respond to. They have to be open for 21 days. So it's really difficult for a council to engage or procure something quickly if they had to do that through a full and open tender every time. Now, local buy is not just for local government. We did start out being predominantly for local government, but we have lots of other entities who now utilise local buy for procurement. So local government entities in Tasmania, in Queensland and the Northern Territory, but also state and federal government departments, government-owned corporations, water authorities, port authorities. We are eligible to be utilised by charities and not-for-profits as well, and educational organisations. Lots of schools and unis are already utilising local buy to procure. So here are some of the benefits why you have chosen to become a local buy supplier. It gives you access to a big market in local government. And I'm going to show you some statistics on the next slide about our non-local government market as well. It reduces the cost of tendering. You can reply to requests for quote or even be engaged directly by a council without having to go through the rigmarole of that tender process. You are more likely to win the work faster with contracts already in place, the general conditions of contract and the purchaser conditions of contract, which you have agreed to when you came on as a local buy supplier. And of course, it creates a great pathway to repeat business with key customers within the local government sector. So here are some of those statistics that I spoke about before I hand across to Michael. Local Buy has 54 pre-qualified supply arrangements across 7 broad portfolios, and we had over 1,200 individual people procure through Local Buy from 279 purchasing organisations. If we consider there are 77 councils in Queensland and 17 in the Northern Territory, that shows you how big that market is of non-local government clients as well. We have over 4,000 pre-qualified suppliers across those 54 arrangements, and we are growing year on year. $930 million was spent through local buy pre-qualified supply arrangements last financial year, and it is likely that we will hit the magic $1 billion in this financial year 24-25. So you can just see there that the scope of the market that is available to you as a local buy pre-qualified supplier. Now, without further ado, enough from me. I'm going to hand across to Michael Franzmann, who is going to take us through a bit more detail about the arrangements that he looks after. Michael, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Emma. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Just a bit about my background. It's almost 45 years experience in business, predominantly in the HR recruitment and training sector. But I've worked for local government. I've worked for private industry. I've worked for not-for-profits with organisations such as Brisbane City Council, Logan City Council, Construction Schools Queensland, Maxima, Suncorp, MIM Holdings, BHP, Create Foundation, and Suited to Success. So I've had a broad experience across all of those areas. I've also done a lot of volunteer work, as president of the Logan Chamber of Commerce. I've chaired committees for the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland and sat on their State Policy Council, as well as numerous other not-for-profits and volunteer roles. So I've been with Local Buy almost 6 years now. I'm currently I have been for the last 3 or 4 years, looking after the corporate services and the equipment portfolio. Now, that portfolio, it consists of 13 local buy arrangements I look after, which fall into the areas of human resources, business and finance, marketing and events, security services, corporate clothing, workwear, PPE, and office furniture, stationery, and janitorial supplies. So what is the role of the category manager? Basically, what we are subject matter experts assisting buyers and suppliers. We support the engagement team, whether it be by the engagement team. Obviously, their role is to be out there talking to some suppliers, talking to councils mostly. So if they need a subject matter expert, they will contact one of the category managers, and we'll go out and meet with councils on their behalf. We might go to conferences and webinars and seminars, and we sort of working together to support councils and to support the suppliers. So we also manage the quarterly tender processes for our portfolios. So as you see, I've got 13. We're going out again on the 1st of May. 12 of my arrangements are going out again. And then we go out again in August after that. So it's a never-ending cycle. So it's a 3-month cycle. We go to market for a month, we evaluate for a month, and then the appointments occur during the following month, and then it starts all over again. So we provide feedback to unsuccessful tenderers. We're the first point of contact for disputes and escalations of contract-related issues, whether that be councils contacting us or suppliers contacting us. We develop business cases and tender documents for new arrangements, and we seek feedback, obviously, from councils for any arrangements that we might be looking to put in place. We monitor the performance of each arrangement within our portfolios. We review and approve requests for price increases or rate cards. We maintain relationships with the high-performing suppliers. And as I mentioned before, we attend relevant conferences and events as required. So under the human resources services arrangement, I've got 5 different arrangements there. So people and wellbeing, training services, and then the 3 recruitment panels. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, those 3 recruitment panels. So LB297, which is our permanent staff arrangement, it's a register of pre-qualified suppliers LGA arrangement for the supplier permanent recruitment services to councils and other approved purchases across Queensland and the Northern Territory only. Tasmania aren't participating in this arrangement. We've gone back to them recently and see if they wanted to be added to it, and they've declined. So that's totally understandable. That's up to them how they want to, whether they want to participate or not. The contract has over 220 suppliers at the moment, and it is growing every time we go to market. We get probably 20, 30, 40 more suppliers coming on board. This particular contract commenced on the 31st of July in 2021. The initial term was for 3 years with 2 optional extension periods of 36 months each. Now, we have taken up all of the extension options on that. The council contract will expire on the 30th of June 2030, and we will be going out to market for a new arrangement prior to the expiry of that. Once you're on the arrangement, you don't need to retender when these refreshes happen, and you will stay on there until that expiry date of the 30th of July 2030. And we will notify all existing suppliers when they need to retender. But at this stage, you don't need to retender for this arrangement until it'll be probably, I would say, the May tender round in 2030.
2030 or the back end of 2029?
2030.
Wow. So yes, and I was going to interject, Michael, as I like to do, and you nicked in and said what I was going to say is that you do not need to do anything else now. If you're already on, which you will be if you've been invited to this webinar, you will be good until we tell you that we're going to market for a new arrangement, when you will have to do something.
So this arrangement, it has 5 categories: executive management, professional, admin and clerical, trade works and labour, and apprentices and traineeships. Now, suppliers, you would have applied to be appointed to either one or more or all of the categories for that particular arrangement. So this is the bit probably you're all most interested in seeing, the performance of this arrangement. So in financial year 2022, the spend going through that arrangement was 3.4 million. Financial year ending 2023, 4.2, 2024, 5.2, and year to date in 2025, as at the end of December, which was Q2, 3.1 million. So as you can see, we've had $1 million growth every year for the past 3 years or 4 years, and we're on track to achieve that or exceed that again this year. So we've had 107 buyers utilise the arrangement, and the total spend that we've received from that is from approximately 20% of the listed suppliers on the arrangement. So when you look at the numbers of suppliers on the arrangement, we said before about 220, only 20% are actually getting work through the arrangement at present. Now, there are approximately 6,000 vacant full-time positions across local government in Queensland at any given time. And obviously, if you look at the graph on the right-hand side there, Queensland councils make up 86% of that spend. Non-Queensland councils, so that could be state government, it could be schools, universities, other government entities, make up 13%, and the Northern Territory is 1%. So there is a lot of opportunity in Northern Territory and in non-Queensland council organisations. Now, I should point out that this is reported spend only. One of the issues we have found is that through our compliance team, who does regular audits with new technologies, and it's obviously make it easy to audit to track any unreported spend. So we've heard some of the things we've come across. Suppliers have been only declaring the percentage of the profit margin in the sales monthly reports instead of the actual total invoice. Excuse me, total invoice amount, which is the required reporting. The reporting requirement. We've also heard reports that some, and councils have advised us of this, some suppliers are being issued RFQs, and they've been responding to them and going back to council, and then they've been advising council that they could get cheaper rates if they used a different arrangement other than local buy. That is a breach of our contracts and our code of conduct. And as I mentioned before, our compliance team does regular checks on that, and they are talking to councils all the time, and we do get feedback on that, and they do conduct audits. So just a reminder for everyone: make sure you're reporting the right amounts, and if you get offered work under a local buy arrangement through an RFQ, you shouldn't be advising councils that they can get cheap rates cheaper elsewhere.
I'd just like to interject. We're going to be covering off reporting requirements in a little bit. But I'd just like to reiterate what Michael was saying about the potential opportunities within the Northern Territory. I work really closely with the Northern Territory councils, and staff turnover there is even worse than staff turnover in Queensland councils due to the remoteness of those geographical remoteness of those councils. So there could be really good opportunities there. It's and it's staggering to me that there are 6,000 vacancies for full-time positions within Queensland at any one time. So very interesting statistics,
Yeah,
Michael.
it is, Emma, and the fact that a lot of those are the smaller regional councils, and they have their own difficulties in recruiting. Obviously, some of them are remote. There's no place for people to live. There's housing shortages, and getting people to go out bush to work can prove to be difficult for them. So. They're just some of the things facing, or difficulties facing our smaller regional councils, but there certainly are opportunities there, a lot of opportunities within regional councils, and you might say, like, how do we actually connect with them? I mean, Emma will go into this later on about how to market yourself and connect. But it's all about, from my perspective, it's all about having the relationships with councils, building the relationships with councils, and referrals, business referrals. Cold calling can only do so much, and I've, from my experience, have found that the councils will either go to their local suppliers, they'll either go to people that they've worked with before and trusted, or the ones that they have the relationships with. So moving on to the next contract. This is our new contract, which hasn't been in place, or it's been in place about 12 months now. The LB334, Recruitment, Temporary and Labour Hire Services. So this is across Queensland, Northern Territory and Tasmania, and it does form part of Local Buy's active arrangements, which mean we go to market quarterly to add new suppliers. Currently, we've got over 140 suppliers, and again, that's growing. Commenced on the 3rd of May 2024. Initial term is 3 years with 2 optional 3-year periods. And our intent is for that contract to run for the full 9 years. So it will expire the 30th of April 2033, which just so happens to be after the Olympics. So there could be some opportunities in the lead up to the Olympics and during that period leading up to that, because they will need a lot of temporary staff for those events. And we do have our managers, we do have relationships with the Olympics committee and the organising committees, and we're having regular discussions with them about the services that we can provide and how we might be able to assist them moving forwards with that huge event that's going to be happening. So on this arrangement, we have 6 different categories. So executive management, professional, IT, admin and office support, trades and labour, and apprentices and trainees. And as before, you can be appointed to one or more of the categories. Generally, you don't often see a lot of temporary employment for executive management, but it can happen, when they're out there looking for someone, and they might put someone in a role in an interim position until they can actually make a full-on appointment. So the performance of this arrangement, as I said, it's only new. Generally, our contracts take about 12 months to kick off and start actually getting traction with councils and other buyers. So in the financial 2024 period, we had about 400,000. Year to date, as at 2025, 3.73 million. So, 4.13 million gone through the arrangement since then. We've had 33 buyers use the arrangement at the end of December. The total reported spend has been achieved from approximately 10% of the listed suppliers on this arrangement. So there's been no spend reported in the Northern Territory. So that is a huge opportunity there. Tasmania is less than 1%. It's 0.2%, which is why it's sort of not really registering there. Non-Queensland councils is about 2.8% at this stage, and Queensland councils form 97% of that spend. Well, when you look at that, 33 buyers, 97%, we have 77 councils across Queensland. So there are a lot more opportunities there for the councils to engage those services. We also have around 12 councils using a managed service arrangement for contingent labour, and I'll touch on that one shortly. Local government spend on contingent workforce in Queensland is over 200 million a year. It's probably creeping up towards $300 million a year. That stat there's probably about 12 months old, but I'd say it's probably getting closer to 300 million a year for contingent labour across Queensland. There is definitely opportunities in smaller and regional councils in Northern Territory and in Tasmania and the Queensland non-council organisations.
Michael, as you said, it does take a wee while for an arrangement to come to life as such. Considering we only started in May last year, it's doing pretty well already. When I'm looking at those figures,
it's certainly exceeding our budget, what we thought budget was. So we're doing pretty well there.
And considering we didn't have a temporary recruitment arrangement at all, it was just that managed service provider arrangement that we had previously and the permanent one. So yeah, it's good. It's pleasing to see that it's performing so well so far, so early on in its life.
Okay, so the managed service provider arrangement, this is the LB336. This is a preferred supplier arrangement for the supply of recruitment services through a managed service provider service, and to councils and other approved purchasers for Queensland, Northern Territory and Tasmania. The arrangement was open for both neutral vendor and master vendor managed service providers. Now, obviously, a neutral vendor means that they're not, and I'm not, you guys will all know this, they're not an actual recruitment agency, but they engage and work with a number of recruitment agencies to recruit for those roles that they have. And obviously the master vendor. We've got 4 suppliers on that arrangement. So again, that commenced 3rd of May 2024, due to expire in 3 years, 30th of April 2027. We have 2 3-year extension options, and we will be taking those up. So it will run for the full 9 years, and it will expire in April 2033. So there's 4 categories within this arrangement: neutral vendor managed service providers, master vendor managed service providers, recruitment process outsourcing, and statement of work. So suppliers must have applied for and have been appointed to either category A or B to be eligible to apply and be appointed to provide services under the category C RPO and the statement of work category D. So this arrangement, 336, financial year 2024, considering it started in May, we had $8.3 million go through it as at the end of that financial year. End of Q2, December this year, 24.2 million, so 32.5 million in 8 months have gone through that arrangement. There's 12 buyers using the arrangement, only 4 listed suppliers. We have no reported spend in Northern Territory or Tasmania. There's 94% of that spend is with Queensland councils, and non-Queensland councils make up 6% of the spend. And that's certainly an opportunity to grow in that non-council space. And utilities companies, Northern Territory and Tasmania, and certainly opportunities for statement of work and RPO services. Statement of works, we've only just put it into this arrangement. A lot of councils may not be aware of it. A lot of buyers might not be aware of it yet, but it certainly is we see that growing. And it could even attract as much spend as what we're getting through the contingent labour. So if we're getting 20 odd million dollars a year in one, we expect it's probably going to match it eventually once it kicks off and councils start using it and are happy with it and how it's going. We expect that growth to be pretty substantial. So supplier engagement. So did you want to take over, Emma, or do you want me to continue this bit?
My slides probably cover a lot of this stuff, but I can certainly take over, Michael, if you would like me to, if you've had enough of speaking.
Oh, my voice is giving out. Sorry everyone, I've had a bit of a sore throat and a bit of a bug, and I know Emma has too. So we're struggling to get through this today, but we will manage it and we will get through it.
We're super croaky, but that's okay. We have the mute button for when I'm going to cough, so it's all good. So I have some further slides about the things that you as a supplier can do to try and generate some more business through Local Buy. And we do have a couple of questions that I'm going to cover off on as well. So you can be engaged via vendor panel. And I'm going to talk about vendor panel in a little bit more detail in a moment. But vendor panel is our online procurement technology that we use. And I'll cover off that in a moment. But you can be engaged directly from a council outside of the vendor panel system. It's really, really important for you guys as a supplier to know if you're being engaged through Local Buy or not. If it isn't clear, please do go back and check if you are being engaged through a Local Buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement or not. The councils can also create their own preferred supplier listing by limiting the work to a smaller number of Local Buy suppliers, and therefore negotiate even better pricing for those particular arrangements. And they can engage you for a fixed period of time underneath that particular arrangement as well. And councils don't have to use the Local Buy prescribed purchaser conditions of contract. They can use their own, so be really careful about how you're being engaged as well. As an ex-recruiter myself, and I didn't know that Michael was an ex-recruiter until we were talking about this presentation earlier either, we know that I know from the recruitment agency that I used to work for, if you take on a candidate, sometimes the recruitment organisation's terms and conditions are assumed to have been agreed to. Just be really careful. that means there's probably a few contracts flying around the place. Make sure you know which contract you're being engaged under.
Yeah, and with the state government engagement too, Emma, we have a lot more interest from the state government arrangements for the permanent recruitment arrangement. They don't have a state government SOA for permanent recruitment. They have one for temp. They don't have one for permanent, which is we're finding a lot of them are coming to us and asking us how can we engage and how can we use that. And a lot of them will also have their own purchases conditions that they will be applying to that rather than the default ones.
But we always say double check. The contract is going to be the thing that the lawyer refers to if you end up in a dispute situation. So make sure you know which one you're being engaged under. So vendor panel, let's talk a little bit about vendor panel. As we said, vendor panel is our online procurement technology that Local Buy use. Sometimes there are some misconceptions about what that relationship is and what vendor panel is to Local Buy. So vendor panel is literally an online procurement tool, like any other, like Q tenders or like the ICN network. It's just the one that Local Buy has chosen to partner with. You may be getting requests for quote coming through vendor panel. And vendor panel is a portal where our customers can find out about your business. So it's really important the information that you have in vendor panel is up to date. So make sure your logo's on there. Add colleagues to the system. The amount of times that I see a request for quote and an organisation has not read it, and it's a recruitment engagement opportunity that's been missed because there's only one person attached to the vendor panel account and that person's on annual leave. So no one in your organisation has seen that potential business opportunity or responded to it. So make sure you add in colleagues to the system so they are also alerted when a business opportunity comes your way via vendor panel. Make sure your profile's up to date and it's accurate, and that your insurances and compliance documentation are up to date. Many of our clients will not engage with a supplier if their insurances are out of date. That's just part of the process that those councils have.
The other thing we could suggest too, Emma, is make sure if you've got a website, make sure you put your website on there. Because if a council's scrolling through and they want to find out more information about your organisation, they can click on the website link in vendor panel. It'll open it up for them. If there's not one there, they're liable to just bypass it and go to the next one on the list.
Yep. Every RFQ, every request for quote that comes out via vendor panel is a business opportunity. Please have a look at it. One of the things that I do, or we do as an engagement team for our councils, is we monitor what's going through vendor panel and we encourage our suppliers to read the request for quote. And I'm going to talk about what the engagement team does in relation to councils in just a moment. But actually keeping an eye on and encouraging our suppliers to respond is one of the things that we do. So we go out into councils and we try and promote the use of Local Buy. That's our job as engagement managers. And then so we get a council all excited about utilising Local Buy, and then no one reads their request for quote. And I'm like, oh no, I die a little bit inside. So please do make sure when you get that email come through from vendor panel, and it will be from no reply at vendor panel alerting you to a business opportunity, jump in and have a look at it. If you don't want to respond because it's not in your wheelhouse, press decline to respond, and then that council knows that you've read the quote but you're not interested in taking part in that procurement activity this time around. Or if you are keen, press intend to respond, and then that council officer knows that you are likely to be submitting a request for quote for that particular RFQ. So you can also ask questions of the council through vendor panel. So if something's not clear, they will often be anonymous, and that's why they're using vendor panel. So they can't have people call them up and talk to them to keep it really clean and fair for all of the suppliers involved. So if you do have a question, you can post that through vendor panel and ask for further clarification, and the supplier will respond. The buyer, will respond through vendor panel to let you know the answer to that question. Other things that you need to do as a supplier: monthly reporting. Now, you do need to log in and do your reporting once a month. So the deadline for reporting is the 21st of every month. And we do require you to report even if you've had no business through Local Buy. And look, I understand that it would be frustrating to have to log in and do that every month, but it is a condition of the contract that you signed up to when you came on board as a Local Buy supplier, I'm afraid. So you do have to log the nil returns. However, we've got a brand new system in place that came in last year, which is tons better than the previous one we had. And it's literally a 5-second job to submit a nil return every month. We do, however, would love it for you to be doing heaps and heaps of business through the arrangement, and you're putting in lots and lots of spend every month, but you are required to submit any of the invoice value that has gone through Local Buy, not your margin, not your profit margin, the invoice value that has gone through a Local Buy arrangement with each of our customers each month.
Yeah, excluding GST.
Excluding GST. So what can you do to win more business through Local Buy? As Michael said, on some of our arrangements, we have over 200 suppliers. So we can't promote any one supplier over another. My team, and I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail, go out and promote the use of Local Buy in all of the councils that we look after, but we can't promote any one supplier over another. So you have a bit of a part to play in this as well. Get across your councils and follow them on social media. Know what they're doing, know what's going on in the councils that you want to work in. One of the best tips I ever learnt was to review the council minutes. There is a wealth of information on there. And yes, I am that sad person sometimes on a Friday afternoon when all my poor brain power has gone from the week. I do sit there and I read council minutes. If you're more of a visual person, quite often council meetings are recorded so you can even watch them if you want to. But there's great information within the council minutes about the councils you're interested in doing business with. Keep your vendor panel profile up to date and develop and build those relationships. As an ex-recruiter, Michael and I were both chatting about this morning. We know it's all down to relationships. So getting in and meeting the people in those councils and having continual relationships with them is absolutely the way to go. Attending industry events. Quite often councils have supplier engagement events or meet the buyer events. There's lots and lots going on in local government land that you can get involved in. Get involved in the community. We know that supporting corporate social responsibility, sponsoring footy teams and things like that really does work to help you build those relationships. And target neighbour councils. You can do business within the recruitment industry from far and wide. So there, as we were saying, there's so many opportunities out there. You've just got to go and find them. Now, what do we do? Well, I've already described to you and shown you some pretty photos of my wonderful engagement team. We are out there in council land talking to our clients and encouraging them to utilise Local Buy wherever they can. Now, at this juncture, I am going to pop across into and answer a couple of questions that have come through, a couple of similar questions. So a couple of suppliers have asked Michael, and I'm happy to answer this one, is that they reached out to a council who said, we have our own arrangement. Whilst we say, and every single council in Queensland uses Local Buy in some way, shape or form, they don't unfortunately use us for every single arrangement that we have. If they did, we probably wouldn't need to be here in terms of an engagement team, but we do, of course, encourage them to do that. The larger councils sometimes have quite a large procurement team, which enable them to have the resources to occasionally set up their own panels. And that is the council's decision to go down that route rather than utilising a Local Buy pre-qualified supplier arrangement. So unfortunately, whilst we would love to do business within the recruitment space with every single council, we know that's not a reality, but there are still lots and lots of opportunities to do business with those councils through Local Buy. So what do? We are out there and about. as I said, I spend the majority of my time out on the road, meeting face to face with my councils, going to conferences, doing webinars, training the councils how to use vendor panel to try and increase the use of local buy within our own portfolios. We're quite heavily utilizing LinkedIn. So please hit me up, add me on LinkedIn. I have over 7,000 connections on LinkedIn already, and I love a bit of LinkedIn action. We have a monthly newsletter. That newsletter goes out to 20,000 people every month. So we have lots of information about local buy in there. And we're always in communication with council staff. Now, you do have an opportunity for you to use the local buy logo. So go out there and use it. I love an email from a supplier and I see the local buy logo on the bottom. It just lets your customers know you are a local buy pre-qualified supplier and could you give you a head up against your competition. So utilize the logo. If you're a new supplier, do a little LinkedIn post. We are really happy to become a local buy pre-qualified supplier. You never know who's going to see that post and could reach out to you for business. So use that supplier badge. And we do have some local buy events taking place. Next year, as I said, was our 25th anniversary. We're going to be turning 25 years old, and we'll be holding a big conference in Brisbane to celebrate that, and there will be trade opportunities available. So get involved when you can. So we're nearing the end of the presentation now, and I am going to go through some of the questions. But before I do that, I'm going to put this slide up. Now, this is feedback. We really do value your feedback. So while we're going through the question and answer portal, please pop on and scan that QR code for me because Michael and I would absolutely love to have some feedback from you on whether you found this particular webinar useful, which I hope you did, but we can handle the criticism if you can't. So I'm going to dive in to have a look at some of these questions now, Michael.
No problems.
But I need to have a quick read, so you might need to sing them all a song while I'm doing that.
It's okay. I saw one question there. It said, where can we find the insurance requirements? So all of your insurance requirements are listed in Schedule A of your general conditions of contract document, which you would have downloaded when you made your tender application. If you do not have that, drop myself or the contracts team an email and let us know, and we can send a copy of that through to you. You can either email myself or contracts, which is contracts@localbuy.net.au. Now, I noticed today too, we had some suppliers on here who are only recently been appointed in the recent tender round, and some who have been here for probably 12 months, but are still showing as not yet approved in their vendor panel account. So that could be because there's compliances outstanding, there could be departures outstanding or outstanding invoices. So if you haven't, if you log into your vendor panel account, if you're showing as not yet approved, please reach out and contact the contracts team. You can give them a call on 1-800-524-357. Now, and they'll be able to assist you with that because our contracts team finalise all the appointments. They also deal with the technical issues, or if you want to make changes to your VP account and you can't get through or you've forgotten your password, they'll be able to assist you with that.
Excellent. And you will see if you've got outstanding compliance documents in vendor panel, if you are the primary administrator of your vendor panel account, it will say critical tasks. And if you've got something there in critical tasks, you are missing something. So, and that's great segue, Michael, into a question that Renee asked. Renee asked, with suppliers being brought on so often, every 3 months, do we let all of the councils know what new suppliers have come on board? I'm able to answer that question. In short, we don't send them all an email saying, hey, these new suppliers have come on board. However, you will be appearing within Vendor Panel, and you're on something that's called a category matrix that sits within Vendor Panel. So as we said before, some of the arrangements have, say, 200 suppliers on it. When you responded to be a local buy supplier, you actually said what areas you would service. So when you come on as a local buy supplier, you get added to the category matrix, and we train this when we're training councils in how to use Vendor Panel. It's okay, I want to go and recruit someone permanently and I'm based here in Townsville. You can actually tick off who is located in Townsville or who can service the Townsville area, and that will give me a list of those suppliers. So that happens every single time we appoint a new supplier onto a pre-qualified supplier arrangement. We know, and I would love to be able to send out a list of all of the brand new suppliers every month, but our customers are inundated with emails, and the more we send them, the less they read. And I'm sure that you find this in the world of business as well, is that we have so much information that we're giving them, that would be complete overload probably, unfortunately, although it is a good idea. So Glenn has asked if we have a training session to help us set up Vendor Panel. Glenn, we can absolutely help that. Just reach out to me and I can guide you through that. We can set up a Teams meeting and we can share screens and I can talk you through how to do that. Someone has asked, Michael, why there is no or little reported spend so far in the Northern Territory. Did you want to answer that one?
I wish I could answer that one. Obviously, the councils up there are aware of it. The Local Government Association of Northern Territory partner with us up there on that. Emma, I know, has regular contact with Legant up there and does attend supplier sessions, and we do advise them about the local buy arrangements. Technically, Legant are the ones that are notifying all of their councils up there about what is, correct me if I'm wrong, Emma, but they're the ones responsible for notifying all of their councils about local buy arrangements and what's available to them through us.
And I work quite closely. There is a representative who looks after local buy called Rachel, who works for Legant, who's based in Darwin, and she works quite closely with those councils. But as I said before, the turnover in councils in the Northern Territory is crazy. I develop a relationship with someone and it's all going fabulously, and the next minute they're no longer there and we have to start all over again. So it's a bit of a tricky world to work in at the moment. So, and the temporary recruitment arrangement is quite new and things take a little while to bed in. A question here, if the area we work across changes, how do we update that in terms of geographically changes that they are keen to work in different areas, Michael?
You can just drop us an email saying that, because I know originally when you tendered, you're saying this is the areas we've elected to work under. Drop us an email if that changes. Let us know, and we can update Vendor Panel to include that.
We can update they're called filter tags within Vendor Panel, and we can update the filter tags and we will update the supplier matrix. So when the buyers are actually filtering off to see who can do business or who can supply in their particular area, then you'll be showing there as well. So it is really important the things that you put in your tender can have some knock-on effects down the line.
Yeah, the same effect too is if you're no longer able to service certain regions, let us know and we can remove that from your account.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and talk to you about these things and help us to gain more business through Local Buy. We would love for you just to get appointed and then suddenly all this business starts flowing in, but in reality, that's not what happens. So thank you very much for coming along and listening to us. Because implementing some of the things that we've suggested could be really beneficial. Now, I hope someone's jumped in and done some of the feedback for us Michael, this afternoon. Now, before we leave you, because there's only 4 minutes left in this meeting, we do have a supplier welcome session taking place tomorrow online via Zoom. So if you wanted a bit of a recap, we do a bit of a deeper dive into some of that marketing and vendor panel things, then feel free to jump onto the Local Buy events page and you'll see there the supplier welcome session. We run one of those every single month. So if you've got people coming on board that do work within local government and you'd like them to find out more about Local Buy, you can let them come along to that supplier welcome session to find out more. Are there any additional questions? If there are, Michael and I are more than happy to answer them offline. If you had something specific, hit me up on LinkedIn, please do, or email Michael and I. You'll find our contact details on the Local Buy website. Feel free to shoot us an email and we will do our very best to assist you. And don't be a stranger. If you've got some good news stories, please reach out. We would love to hear from you. And if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to let us know. Michael, do you have anything to add?
No, just thank you everyone for coming along. I know, and as you all know, recruitment industry, can be cutthroat. There's a lot of suppliers out there. I understand where the frustration is at times with suppliers saying, look, we're now on Local Buy, we're not getting any business. Some suppliers just sit there and wait for it to come. And we all know that that's, historically when we see that, you won't get work if that's the case. We can't guarantee work. We state that in all of our tender documents that go out. It's in our general conditions of contract. We wish we could. We wish everyone could get work through the arrangement. We know it's not possible. We know some councils are set in their ways and will only go to the tried and true suppliers that they've used for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, and it's difficult to get in there. But as Emma said before, it's all about relationship building and working and trying to work your way in there. And once you get an opportunity, and if you're performing, it will lead to more work. And then the referrals from one council to another council as well, because councils do refer and talk to each other.
Thank you very much, Michael. Please, as I said before, honestly, if you have additional questions or queries, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you. So please do reach out. And I hope you have an absolutely marvelous Tuesday afternoon. Thank you again for your time. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you, everyone.